he's the best player in the league, that doesn't default you into winning the Landon Donovan MVP award.
Until I do something to get canceled on the show, then I'll be the Tim Howard MVP award.
No chance. Welcome, everyone, to Unfiltered Soccer with Landon Donovan and Tim Howard, presented by Volkswagen. Volkswagen has long been a supporter of soccer in America and has proudly been a partner of U.S. Soccer for the past 5 years. LD, I see your VW swag going strong in the back. I'm glad you got
my mug. They sent me a shirt to me. I will wear it at some point. I also have a jersey. When it's National Team Week, I will. I see your mug in the corner there. I'm going to get it its own Instagram account, Tim's mug.
Listen, I'm going to wear my jersey on National Team Week as well. Proudly, by the way, because that's all I get now is just to be a fan. How are you? All good?
Good, man. What a weekend. We'll get into it in LA. Saw all my old buddies, Juninho, Omar Gonzalez,
Honestly.
Mike McGee, AJ De La Garza, Robbie
I couldn't take it.
I know, it probably made you sick, but it was so fun.
I was watching the game, and then the Love Fest came on after, and I was just like, oh my God, here we go, Galaxy again. But it was good to see you.
Oh, it was amazing. All the staff, it was one of those moments in life where I just enjoyed it. Like I was just sitting there enjoying it the whole time. So
proper football club, man.
It was amazing.
Like Galaxy.
Don't forget, follow us, guys. Social media, Unfiltered Soccer. Subscribe on YouTube. Make sure you follow on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. If you love what we're doing, leave a message. It helps other people find us. You can also email us at feedback@Unfiltered Soccer. So what do we got today, Timmy? Something special.
We got something special for the first time on the Unfiltered Soccer podcast. We have our first guest, and it is it's my honor to introduce Bolton legend, Houston Dynamo legend, U.S. Men's National Team World Cup member, lead soccer analyst at Fox Sports, soccer dad, and all around a truly amazing friend and person, Stu Holden. Stu, welcome in, buddy.
Yes. Honored to make my debut, boys, in the podcast. You know, I heard you talking about your sponsors, Volkswagen. But Timmy, is that a Louis Vuitton soccer ball up there? Are you trying to?
It is.
And we have a little Louis. I mean, that would be on brand for you, bro.
It would be on brand. I appreciate the shout because I don't have that sponsorship yet, but we're working on it.
We're working on it.
Okay, I would have thought you did by the amount of bags you have.
Let's go. Come steamrolling in, my guy. How you been, bro? Everything good?
I'm good, man. You know, I was at Dignity Health Sports Park for the Galaxy win on Saturday. So it was fun to see the Galaxy back, and it was a great buzz in that building. But otherwise, man, you know, I'm being soccer dad. I know you boys are both soccer dads as well. I'm running around from soccer practice to dance to gymnastics to this was a nice break. I actually, by being on this podcast today, I get to skip school run. So if we can film for like 2 hours, that would be great.
Weekly guest.
Yeah, weekly guest, 7 a.m. Thanks. Sorry, Kara.
You can do a daily show.
How you been, boys?
Amazing.
Get out
Landon, you done gloating? Have you had 48 hours?
Actually, I wanted to show you guys something, just because you guys wouldn't really know. I mean, so I got my ring out. I'm gonna wear it. I'm just gonna.
Okay, well, I'm gonna go grab my two if you give me a second.
Well, I don't have enough fingers for mine, pal. But
oh wow, yeah, that's fair. Okay.
I mean, you can share, Atlanta. I don't have any, clearly, so. We'll just pass them along.
Hey, Tim, I was also just wondering, are Landon and Ricky Pooge, are they the same human at this point? I mean, they're wearing each other's shirts. Ricky comes out for the parade. He's got Landon's shirt on. Landon came out with the cup with Ricky's shirt. I was like,
it's gross. It's gross. I said it. I said it's gross. It's absolutely gross.
I get it. Yeah, we get it.
It's jealousy.
Can we just talk about the game? All right.
Jump in.
All right. Jealousy comes in all forms, guys. All right,
I don't know what you expected here, Landon. I don't know what you expected having me on.
I know. All right. So you called the game. Let's just dig into the actual game. Tim said last week, it was great. It was a great quote. He said, finals are often disappointing. Like semifinals are often way better than finals because finals can be cagey, et cetera. So just from you, I didn't hear the broadcast. Tim heard the broadcast. I was in the stadium. So just what was your take on the actual game and how it played out?
Yeah, I actually thought the first half was a really good game. You know, we had the 2 goals from the Galaxy. I think in not a neutral venue, once MLS got away from the neutral venue, it really was to incentivize teams in the regular season. And so you get to host Cup, and it's a huge advantage. I thought the crowd was fantastic. As we said just jokingly a minute ago, the Galaxy were back, but in order to truly be back, they had to win that game. And so I think there was a bit of pressure for LA. I think the fans were a little antsy as well about, knowing that they needed to win the final. So having that early goal in the 9th minute, what a goal it was. I wasn't really sure how the Galaxy would look without Ricky Puig in a big final where I knew New York were going to defend. They played with 5 in the back. But Brugman and Delgado and Cerrillo, I thought were fantastic, the 3 midfielders. And that was kind of the unknown. You knew Paintsel was going to get chances. You knew Gabriel Peck was going to be dangerous on the right. And then Joveljic has been just a total stud up front, 20 goals on the season and 21st. And I just love how he told us in an interview, we interviewed him post-game 2019, and he was saying, I am the future of the Galaxy. Well, he knew if he got that opportunity, he was going to score goals. And so I just thought the Galaxy got on top of them early. New York Red Bull looked a little shell-shocked. And then second half, they kind of came back into it. But then I was impressed that the Galaxy had to show another side of their soccer. And they want to just beat you 5-4 as opposed to 2-0 and shut the game down. But they did really kind of shut it down. And Greg made some good defensive subs. And they were deserving winners, I thought, on the balance of the full game.
Yeah. It was interesting. I was watching it and I just thought, like, I couldn't, to my comment last week, LD, like, finals are cagey because basically you have each team has one hand on the trophy. So you're like, we're afraid to lose this. And that's how teams play. It's just natural. Mm-hmm. And I just remember thinking the second half was so chaotic. I literally couldn't believe it. I think both sets of teams, like, you get into these games and oftentimes say, like, it's easy to say, like, control tempo. Sometimes you get into, like, this back and forth, like, basketball match, and you can't stop it. Like, it's just the ball gets lumped. They're on top of second balls. You try and play it. It gets nicked. And it was so chaotic that I was like, I was utterly thrilled at the environment that it was. I love the fact that it was in LA. And look, off the field, I heard all of the post-game speeches. I have so much respect for the Galaxy organization and how, you've been a part of it for forever. Like, they are the benchmark in MLS, and the way that they didn't rest on past history. Like, things went sour over the last couple of years. And for me, it would have been easy to say, like, yeah, but we're the Galaxy. It's fine. Like, they took it personally, what LAFC had built. They took it personally that they weren't good enough, and they decided to get back to their standards and raise it. And they did it in a very direct, intentional way. And I just thought, wow, I was blown away by that and really impressive and happy for Greg Vanney.
I was, so two things. One, just on the field, I was shocked, and I guess I shouldn't have been, but I was expecting to see the Galaxy I've seen all season. And it was like the 6th minute, ball goes back to McCarthy. He's got zero pressure on him, and he just smashed the ball up the field. And I'm like, oh, they're not messing around today. Yeah. So it was interesting. Early on, they played like they were way more direct, way more vertical, and then picked up a few second balls, and all of a sudden they were 3v3 at New York's back line. And you're like, whoa, what is New York doing? But I thought Vanney handled it perfectly. By the way, that guy has been through so much crap over the last 3 or 4 years. Job on the line consistently, everyone calling for him to be gone, and he just persevered. I was so happy for him. After the game, I saw him. And like with coaches, they don't even celebrate. They're not even that happy. He was just like, oh, thank God we won. Yeah. Like, he couldn't even celebrate. The players are dancing around. But Stu, that feeling. Like, you could see in his eyes, just like, thank God.
We as we do on the broadcast, you meet with the coaches and players the day before. And I asked him, I said, when you took this job in 2021, did you ever doubt that you could get back here with the Galaxy? And he'd done it with Toronto, and he came in and he was going to be the guy that was going to flip this team and this franchise around. And man, you referenced it, Landon. That we called many of Greg Vanney's games over the last couple of years, and I just saw a guy sometimes that look exhausted, and he's getting it from every angle, and his big stars get injured. Chicharito tears his ACL and yada, yada. Like everything that could have gone wrong for him, I think went wrong, but it also goes hand in hand. And I'm interested in your thoughts on this, Landon. Is we also met with Will Kuntz, and, I think he deserves a ton of credit because the fans walked out and, they demanded change, and they felt what was in the front office at that point and the way the club was going was inadequate and it was in the wrong direction, and they demanded change. They got change, but you also know when it's a coach, the coach is also only as good as his players, oftentimes on the field. And I think we all know Greg Vanney is a very good coach, but clearly that wasn't manifesting on the field and winning cups. All of a sudden you bring in a good GM, sign the right players, all the pieces come together and he's able to win. So I just think like for the Galaxy too, Tim, you talked about it. Like they're used to, it was Beckham, Donovan, Keane, Ibrahimovic, like Chicharito. It was always kind of the big stars. I would argue, I mean, Ricky Puig, he played at Barcelona, but he wasn't like the big star. I think the Galaxy have changed their ethos, but yet have still found a different way to be successful. And in today's MLS, I'm curious what both of you guys feel about this. Like, I don't know, is what's more important, to have the stars and to have like in a city like LA and try to stand out a little bit, or is winning championships clearly going to be more effective for the Galaxy brand? I think it's winning championships is what if you can do it both ideally.
But you have to win. And Tim said last week, and I never thought of it this way, and he's getting his Houston Dynamo owners are going to be spending a lot of more money after this. He said getting a big national team star, U.S. national team star, and a big Mexican national team star and playing together he thinks is the way forward. And I thought that was really good. But if you think back to like Stu, your successful Houston teams, you guys, well, first of all, you didn't have like big stars, but you had all these guys who genuinely cared about the club, like genuinely cared about the club and Houston and doing right by Houston and wanted to succeed for that city. And Ricky hasn't been here long, but that's why I know you guys are giving me crap for it, but like I wanted to honor that. I can see in the way he plays, in the way he cares about the club, that it's genuine. And it was devastating for him not to play in the final. I spoke to his dad after the game. His dad was like beside himself with joy, even though his son didn't play. Like they love the club, and probably growing up in that Barcelona environment, they get that. They understand what that's like. And so Greg brought that back. The players brought it back. But then to your point, Stu, like Nelson, Yoshida, Garces, who, by the way, was absolutely the best player on the field.
Yeah, he was amazing. He was incredible.
Yeah. And so just what they were able to do defensively, bringing Marky Delgado a few years ago, like they were just surreal. They were much more stable, and they still gave up, lots of chances and some big chances because of the way they played. McCarthy in goal. So Wilkins and Greg just built a team that was finally capable of actually winning. It wasn't just all attacking. And they won games 5-4 and 6-3 and all that. But on Saturday, it just showed that they could do it in a variety of ways.
Yeah, I mean, I think the interesting part about it is we're all of a similar generation, and we've seen different iterations of MLS. And what we have to do now is we have to respect the American soccer fan. There's no team in MLS that wants to be crap but have this amazing DP. No one wants that anymore. That used to be MLS, right? It used to be, don't really care if we win. Bring the star from Barcelona, Bayern Munich, wherever, and we'll clamor around this one player even though we stink. Fans don't want that anymore. Fans would much rather have no household names and win than one or two massive stars to go see every now and again and lose. Said. To Greg Vanney's, again, I can't give him enough flowers because here's the thing, Landon, you talked about him being under so much pressure. Do you know how it's difficult to win a championship? It's nearly impossible to be the guy who's won championships and come into an organization and be the one who's supposed to be the savior. That's nearly impossible. It's nearly impossible. And the fact that he was able to weather that storm, even after the game, he's a very humble guy, in my opinion. And even after the game, I was thinking, I would love to hear him say, like he didn't do it. He was very humble and just he took it in stride.
How you like me now?
Yeah.
It was actually the last part of that conversation with him, Timmy. I didn't finish or close the loop on it. When I asked him the question, he said, I don't want to sound arrogant, but I knew we'd be back here. And, I guess it's one thing to say it now. It's easier to say it once you're in the final. But look, I mean, all three of us are involved in club ownership in some different capacity. And the reality is to try to recruit those types of guys that you're talking about, Landon, with Ricky Puig and loving the city. MLS has gone through these iterations, as you're talking about, Tim, but also in a period, I would say, over the last, 5-6 years, really starting with Atlanta United's kind of growth and explosion in South America, where they would get these younger, Argentine, South American guys, 19, 20, 21. Hey, we will bring you to MLS. We'll develop you. We'll give you a platform, and then we're going to sell you and we're going to make money on you. You're going to get to do this. So then MLS and really the problem that's happened in Atlanta is that model really worked and then it didn't work. Yeah. And then all these guys were expecting that and it was just a stop. They weren't investing in the club and in the city and in the league and saying, I'm here. Now, look, Ricky Puig is getting paid a lot of money, so I think that helps. And I think that's part of it. Like, you have to pay these guys to not to want to think like, I got to go somewhere else after this. And there's always going to be those guys. Like Gabriel Peck is probably not going to be an LA Galaxy lifer. Like, he's going to go to Europe. He's a young Brazilian guy. He's had a great season. He's probably thinking about the next stage, but that's the challenge. I mean, and I know you're dealing with that in Houston, Tim. It's like, how do we complement like a really solid core group of American players and guys that get it and a coach that gets it, and then add these pieces and fit this puzzle together to have success on the field. But like, the signs are there in Houston. Like, it's been a much better, trajectory than it's been in the past. And it sounds so simple. Hire good people, hire a good coach, sign good players. I mean, there you go. There's your blueprint.
But everyone gets it wrong, Stu. Everyone gets it wrong.
The chemistry is hard. The puzzle is very difficult, but it's when you get it right, you do realize how special it is. And we saw that in LA this weekend.
And how do you guys feel about like Landon, like MLS? It gives you the tools. The Galaxy. This is a John Strong stat. I mean, it's the last 3 MLS Cup champions all missed the playoffs the year before. I mean, that like,
oh wow,
that's pretty exciting to me. That gives you the tools to change it over.
Yeah, that used to be standard in MLS. But what it shows you, I mean, we all make fun of the crazy rules in MLS and whatever, but what Don Garber has always done is he came from the NFL, and the NFL's number one thing is parity, right? So in any given, when do they start the league? August. Every NFL team believes this is the year, and they do. In baseball, the Pittsburgh Pirates don't go, this is our year. Right, because the Yankees, and we'll get to the Mets and Juan Soto, like, they're spending more. In the Dodgers, you have no chance, right? But in the NFL, and so Garber always wanted to have parity. And in MLS, some teams spend more, obviously, but Real Salt Lake was second or third lowest spending team in the league this year, and they finished, near the top of the West. So there's parity and there's opportunity. Last thing, just to tie a bow on the Galaxy, it's pretty interesting, and I want to get your guys' quick thoughts on this. If you guys remember last year, fans were calling for Chris Klein to be out, right? In the middle of the year, they were boycotting games. And if you just think about that versus a year ago, I wonder from a fan standpoint how people now view that. And, there's got to be a little bit of like, look what we did, right? We got him out. Will Kuhns came in, everything changed. Tom Braun is now the president, and now we're back to winning. And it's just an interesting dynamic. And you guys saw this in Europe more than I did, but how much power in those situations fans have. And is that coming now to America?
Yeah. I mean, I think it is. I'm a little torn on it because I am a fan of, there's sometimes where I'm a fan and sometimes I'm an owner and sometimes I'm an analyst, but there is power in that. And we've seen it for the good, right? We saw it for the good when the European Super League was trying to form, and fans were like, that ain't happening, and over our dead bodies. And they've single-handedly like stopped it almost. And so we see that for the good. Look, sometimes it gets a little bit nasty, but what I would say is, and I'm tilting this conversation to the positive, what I would say is, again, I started MLS, you guys started MLS when there was nobody there. They didn't care. Right. So I'd much rather have to navigate a fan base that is passionate and cares than one that just doesn't turn up and could care less about our team. So that's from my perception.
Pressure and accountability are good things to have. And I think it holds the organization accountable. And then it then forces you as ownership or front office to make a decision and to filter out the noise, but understand like what is real. And I think part of that is having to listen to your customer, which is the fan. And the fan they're your most loyal customer that you're going to get. They invest in everything that you do. And so you would be ridiculous not to listen to them, and they have an opinion and they should. They're in it more than anybody else. And so I love that the Galaxy fans did that. It's nothing new. And as you said, Landon, in other parts of the world where they'll, turn up in hundreds of thousands and throw rocks and, all kinds of crazy stuff. And you don't want to see it to get to that level. But I think it was important, clearly, that the Galaxy fans did that. They made their voices heard. There was change in the front office. And you know what? That change should have come for many years. And maybe that pressure and accountability didn't exist, or totally. I'm not sure why those changes weren't made previously. I'm sure when they're looking at this now saying, man, we're MLS Cup champs and we should have done this earlier. But, it's the Galaxy are in a good place. I said this on the broadcast that MLS needs the Galaxy to be what they are. They're the winningest franchise in the league's history. Them versus LAFC, and kind of, being almost second fiddle for the last 5-6 years since LAFC's just ran rampant. Like, that's going to be fun now if both teams are good. And you know what? Galaxy need LAFC need the Galaxy, and the league need both of these LA teams. So I'm excited.
Definitely.
Me too. Did you see Stu, the reports? I want to get your opinion on MLS League attendance.
Yeah.
I believe they were second in the world in attendance.
Yeah.
And a lot of people we get into this a lot on this show. A lot of people like to crap on MLS and how it's not great, I argue that the in-game experience in an MLS stadium is almost second to none in the world. The Premier League is still probably the gold standard, maybe the Bundesliga. But when you go to an MLS, being there Saturday, the entertainment value, if I knew nothing about soccer, how could you not love being there?
Yeah.
And I know it's a final, but how could you not? And so, Stu, you're there every weekend, every few weekends, you're in this stadium. Like, do you agree with that? You've played everywhere, you've been everywhere, but that's my perception.
Yeah, look, it's three dads here. The best way to quantify this is my wife and daughter were at the game on Saturday. My wife texted me after the game. She goes, "Can I watch the whole game?"
It's amazing, right?
An 8-year-old watched a 90-minute soccer game. That speaks volumes. Yeah, look, it's an interesting conversation because MLS is at times struggling in the TV, landscape in the United States versus NFL and college football and like NBA. And these are behemoths, the NFL is a juggernaut when it comes to TV ratings, and MLS have long trying to like poke their way through and take some market share away from even what you do every week, Tim, at the Premier League. I know it's on at different times, but the numbers you guys do consistently versus like, how does MLS become that? I'm talking on a national level. Regionally, MLS is crushing it. You think about the fans. Guys, I was joking with somebody before MLS Cup. My first MLS assist was in Arrowhead Stadium versus the KC Wiz in front of 5,000 people. Yeah. And
that's generous, 5,000. Yeah.
Might have been my parents that traveled and were celebrating that moment. And I could hear them and knew exactly what seat they were in. Totally. We've played in an old college football stadium. I played on a baseball park in Kansas City. It's crazy to think where that has come, where now, Don Garber should tout this, like the attendance being second in the world, being where they are right now, the amount of soccer specific stadiums, like the in-game product. I absolutely agree with you. I think MLS have really figured that out, and they've really catered and developed these deep bases with supporters in their cities. And that's very important. The challenge is going to be now, how do you go from regionally being so strong and relevant in your market to now making it a nationally broadcast TV product? So it actually pairs back, Tim, to a conversation we were just having about how do you balance these stars and your product on the field and trying to win? But yet we all know on TV, stars sell. And when Ibra was playing for the Galaxy, people wanted to watch that weren't really soccer fans or Galaxy fans, but they wanted to see the main event. Yeah. People will always want to see Messi. And I just think that's going to be kind of the continued challenge and evolution of still do you have some super clubs that you're go spend money and spend a ton of money and get the big stars, and then everybody else try to do it different ways. But there's no doubt the attendance has been awesome. The in-game product is there for everybody to see. Yeah.
I think to piggyback off that, it's one of those, when you look at, and we keep talking about over the next 24 months, which is now 18 months essentially, and what we've built in this country from a soccer standpoint, from sponsorships, television, NWSL, MLS. The landscape couldn't be brighter, and the people that want to go into their pockets and be a part of soccer, and that starts with MLS, but they're also have an eye on the World Cup and NWSL, and so it's pretty. Some of the franchise numbers for even NWSL clubs now are through the roof. And it's you could have never thought that 10 years ago. So where soccer is right now is healthy. I do agree with you. I think we need some really dominant teams in MLS. I'm one who look, parity's good. I also love the fact that there's going to be villains and heroes, and you're going to chase the villains at the top. So I do. I think big players at certain clubs are good. I think just solid organizations all around who aren't built around big stars are also good. So I think the balance is starting to get evened out.
All right. Well, since you're not taking the lead on this, Tim, I'm going to uncomfortably take the lead
Correct.
on this.
Correct.
I can tell you're being quiet on purpose.
Yep. I'll get to you.
Leo Messi was named the MVP this week.
Which MVP?
I'm just gonna leave,
Lionel Messi was this year's recipient of the Landon Donovan MLS MVP award. We'll get to that part in a second. But Stu, when you look at his numbers, they were ridiculous. 20 goals and 10 assists in a regular season. This is how the top 5 looked in the voting. Messi, Cucho Hernandez, Evander, Benteke, and Suarez. The problem is, for some people, is Messi didn't play a lot of games. So go.
I want your take. You seem very passionate about this.
I'm cool. Like I'm good. Like if you can score the goals and the goal involvements that he had and play like I think it was 19 games or something. Yeah, you're valuable to me. You're the most valuable to me.
Yeah. So I voted for Lionel Messi as MVP, and I'm sure I'm going to get shredded after this. And
that's what we do on this show.
But I did. I used my media vote and voted for Lionel Messi because I personally feel, now it depends on how you want to define most valuable player or Landon Donovan most valuable player, because really, like I had this debate with John Strong about this as well. He's saying, well, the most valuable player to me is that if you took that player out of the team, that team would not be nearly as good. And I get that. Like, and Messi, in this case, Miami, without Messi, they still were pretty good for a large chunk of the year. Now, it does help that they have Suarez and Alba and Busquets and like all these studs. But the reason I voted for Messi is because Miami were the best team in the league in the regular season. They set a record for the Supporters' Shield. I feel that the most valuable player in the league should come from the best team in the league. And Messi, when he was on the field, was undoubtedly the best player in the league. His stats were insane. The goals, the assists. I mean, he was on pace at the beginning of the season to absolutely shatter every single record. And then he picks up the injury in the Copa America and had to miss some time. But he's the best player in the league, guys. I mean, he's the best player in the world. He's the best player to have ever played soccer. That doesn't default you into winning the Landon Donovan MVP award. But it also, when you're scoring and doing what you've done on the field, he's the best player. You can't argue that.
Top billing. I agree.
Cucho Hernandez is phenomenal player, but the Crew, they didn't have as good of a year this year. They go out in the first round of the playoffs. Like the playoffs doesn't count in this award, but I'm okay with it.
We agree on that. Landon, you don't get a vote on this, but
I'm just sitting this one out.
But what you can do, and this is not a piss take, although every time I start something by saying this is not a piss take, people think it is, but it's not. Because Stu and I, who we both think we had decent careers, there is nothing named after us. How does that come about? Like, is that a phone call? Seriously, is that a phone call from the MLS that says we'd like to do this, or walk us through that process?
I'm trying to remember the year. I don't remember the exact year. It was, 5 or 6 or 7 years ago. I got first it went through Rich, my agent, and he said Don Garber would like to speak to you about something. And I said, oh, crap. What did I do this time?
It's never a good thing.
So Don gave me a call, and he just straight up, he just said, we'd like to name the MVP award after you. And first of all, what the hell are you going to say to that? Like, I didn't even have a response.
Did you ask for like an annual fee or something?
Yeah. Do I get anything for it? No, but look, I love this league. I get a lot of crap for sticking up for this league, and I spent majority of my career in this league. It's not perfect. Like there's a lot of faults and a lot of errors and a lot of mistakes that we've all made trying to grow soccer in this country. But I am very proud of my career here, and I'm proud that I got to be a part of the league. So when that happened, it was, you can imagine the feeling when someone says they want to do that, right? And that's an historical, accomplishment. We'll say that will last forever, right? So that's not going until I do something to get canceled on this show. And then it'll be the Tim Howard MVP award.
No chance.
But
listen, we're as many people will say, we're in awe of you, and like to be immortalized that way while you're still here. Jesus, that's always after you're gone kind of thing.
Maybe they know something. I don't.
No, I hope not. No, stick around, kid. We're going to move this along to one of our favorite segments because this is what so many of our listeners want to hear. USLNT on USMNT. This is where we talk about the U.S. men's national team, players, teams that they're on in Europe and here in the U.S. And never mind that Milan lost. More importantly, I think for all of us, is that Christian Pulisic took an injury. And that is not a great thing. It sounds as if he's going to be out for an extended period of time, LD, maybe like January. Is it a torn? Is it been confirmed? A torn calf?
I think they said torn calf, right?
Jeez. Yeah, that's tough. That's really tough. So not great from the standpoint, hopefully he can get himself fit because, he has a little bit of time until the spring internationals, but obviously that's not ever something you want to see.
Yeah, Stu, your thought, just curious. Yeah, your thoughts on where he's at.
Guys, I mean, remember the uproar when Pochettino and AC Milan requested Pulisic to come back for that second game, and I would have loved to see Christian play against Mexico, and I didn't think it set the greatest precedent, but I also understood these guys these days are being asked to play more minutes, more games, travel more miles than in the history of soccer, and there's a reason that sports scientists and these medical teams have a really hard job now to try to understand how can we get a guy rest before they hit that? They're in the red zone right now. Can we push him a little more? Do we need him for the Champions League? Do we need him for that international game? And look, Christian had a period of a couple of years ago when he was at Chelsea where it was he was in and out of the team. He'd get in the team. He was injured. And then his rhythm, his flow, everything was interrupted. And so my fear is that we get back to that again. I believe that's in Christian's past. He's played so many more games now. His body's adapted more. He's more grown up. He's grown into his body. But it is a little bit concerning, and you hope that they handle this in the right way because he was in such great form. His fitness was off the charts. He's in that zone, where you're playing game, you're feeling good. It's like the best feeling in the world. Nothing can go wrong. And then now all of a sudden he's just picked up this little niggle. So I don't think this is a huge thing. I just want to make sure that he gets this right and takes care of his body. And it's the hardest thing sometimes now to be the advocate for your own body and knowing that I'm tired because it's seen as a weakness, right? You're like, hey, you know what? I need to practice off. I've got a little bit of a niggle. I've got a knock, and it's impossible to know when that is coming and trying to avoid it if you can still play. So that's what I'm a little bit worried about with Christian here.
Yeah, well articulated. I think for me, and we all got to this point, Stu. You battled through a ton of injuries, but I hope that even though he's young, he's very experienced, and he is the most important player on Milan. He's the most important player on the U.S. men's national team, which is incredible. I hope that not just because of this injury, injuries happen, and as you said, he's had this incredible ability to sustain this run and this consistency he's been on. What I would like for him now is, as he starts to get that seniority, again, even though he's young, is to start having conversations in those rooms where it's his voice and go, nope, not playing today. Can't, because you know why? You need me. And right now my body, whereas we've been in rooms where just I can't play today, but I just got to say yes. I just have to say yes. And the more senior you get, the more clout you get by being great, you can then say, nah, if the guy upstairs wants me to play next week, then I need rest. And by the way, I'm not training Monday. I'm not training Tuesday. I'll be in the physio room because you need me on the weekend. So I think he's getting to that stage, but I hope the injury isn't bad and that the rehab goes well.
Yeah, Stu,
I lived that, by the way, just quickly. My first ACL tear was the Gold Cup Final 2013. And then, I went back to Bolton after that, and I'd rehabbed here in the US for 4.5, 5 months, got myself to a really good point where I felt I'm good to go back. I'm going to be on this this path to getting back to playing. I went back and Bolton saw me, and they were like, wow, I mean, you're flying. Your health, your strength is good. You look good. Your fitness is good. Let's run you through some tests. So I went through these tests, and they're like, all right, we're we're going to get you back into practice in the next like 3 weeks. And we're going to put on this reserve game at the stadium and make it a big thing. And it's going to be your comeback. And in my head, I was like, wait, that's not even 6 months since I tore my ACL. But then I started to believe myself and like convince myself. But then it was also feeling the pressure of the World Cup was 3 months away. My coach was like, we need you back in. You know, we're pushing to get promoted back to the Premier League. All this stuff. I played my first game back from that ACL, man. And I succumbed to that pressure. Even though I probably was experienced enough, I just got emotionally invested in like, okay, I can do this. Like, that's where I should be. 22nd minute against Everton reserves, bang, ACL goes again. You know, and that's me out for a year. And that was just like, that kind of was the beginning of the end. And I just didn't have the, like, I needed somebody to tell me in that moment, Stu, don't do it. No, it's not worth it. You need 3 more months. Your knee hasn't healed inside. Instead, I was like, yeah, these doctors are telling me I'm good. I'm good. I think I'm good. All right, I got to play. And then, you know, that was it. My injury history is a lot more complex than what Christian has got going. But like, same emotions apply, you know? Yeah,
the conversation around it is the same. You know, people being able to advocate for yourself and being able to have people around you who are advocating for you, because we talked about this when Christian went back to Milan. It was club versus country is real. You are an asset to both, and they want everything. And as you said, they can see you in the red zone, and they're still going, how do we get more? Because I need more, because what happens with the U.S. men's national team is more important to me than what happens at Milan and vice versa. So having strong advocates, I think, is important. We want to get your take on something here. PSV beat Twente 6-1. Tillman and Ricardo Pepi both scored. The interesting conversation that we're having, both Landon and I and everyone in America, is we need a number 9. Flo gets injured. Flo's a number 9. But Ricardo Pepi, like, God bless him. He's arrogant. He's hungry. He wants the goals. He's getting the goals. Like, it's his time. Give us your thoughts on where we are with the striker position, what you think about Pepi and kind of the order of things. And I know Flo's out for a little bit.
Yeah, I long felt that Flo Balogun had the highest upside potential, I think, based on raw skill and athletic ability and all the other stuff. But you guys know as well as I do, and we've experienced this with the national team as well. Like, it's who's in form and who wants that jersey. And look, to me, it's Pepi right now. Like, Pepi deserves it. He does need to make, I think, an important next move. Now, whether he could stay where he's at a good level right now. And I heard you guys have this discussion on one of your previous pods and about, you know, like finding the right club. It has to be the right fit for you. Is MLS a better option sometimes? Do sometimes we fall in love with this idea of being in Europe? But what I would say for Ricardo Pepi, it's pretty obvious and evident. He made the wrong move initially by going to Augsburg. But at the same time, that was the club that was going to pay FC Dallas the most money. And it was one of the best options for him in that moment. In hindsight, it wasn't, because he was going to a team that was relegation battle. He's not getting chances. And then his development at that period in his career really, really faltered, and he kind of just stood in neutral. But now I think what you're seeing, we always knew Pepi was a really good raw finisher. He has the tools to be that number 9, but he was lacking some of that confidence. But also, I still felt like mentally and tactically, he wasn't at that next level. And I think he's learned some of that from being in Germany, and then also now from being in Holland. But the question to me is, if he makes that next move, and when he does make that next move, is he in a position in a team where he's getting chances consistently and scoring goals? Like, that's the most important thing for a final. And then I'm totally fine with Pepi being in the starting 9 for the U.S. men's national team. And then all of a sudden we got a bit of a, you know, competition up there between Balogun and Sargent. But I love what I've seen from Pepi. I think he's shown like he can bounce back mentally from being cut from the World Cup in 22. He can bounce back from being completely discarded by a team in the Bundesliga. And he's got a bit of that Clint Dempsey dog in him. He's got that like, I want to fight for this. And I love that I've seen that. And I think it's made him a better player because of that. So if we were starting a game tomorrow, I'm playing Ricardo Pepi up front.
Totally. Yeah. And look, I think and we've all been there, right? We've all been the journey of like trying to make a World Cup team, trying to be relevant. And right now he has 18 months to do that. And if I'm in his camp, I'm just simply saying, look, you've now proven you can score goals on this level. Anything you do now between now and the next 18 months, just be in a position to score goals. If that means go on loan to MLS, if that means go to another club, if that means stay at PSV, I don't care. At this point, all you need to do is consistently score goals between now and then. And then you get yourself in the shop window and you're in a World Cup and here you go. So I totally agree with that.
So Stewie, last thing before we let you get out of here, and thank you for taking time. We know you're happy because you didn't have to do drop off today.
No, if we could go another like 20 minutes, kids are about to leave the house.
So last thing, we'd like to, we want to pick your brain on. So we had a conversation last week. It was 2 years to the day since the Netherlands game in the World Cup. Are we better off today as a national team or not, and why? And then, where are we going and how does it look for the next couple of years, obviously for the next 18 months?
Yeah, I think we are in a better place because, naturally these guys now that made up this team are 2 years on in their development and they're more experienced. Some of these guys are playing more consistently now at their clubs. And I think that was the thing going into 2022. A lot of, Weston was playing, Christian was playing, Tyler was playing and healthy, Tim Ream was. So what I think has happened over the next 2 years is that, and really in the Copa America, the leadership council or the passing of the baton for Greg Berhalter to try to develop some of these guys into leaders, I don't think it really happened because these guys weren't playing at their clubs. And I recently just wrote an article on this on Fox Sports about like when I thought about our team in 2010 and I pulled up the lineup against Algeria, Landon, you were a captain. Tim, you were a captain. Bocanegra, Demerit, Cherundolo, totally. Bradley, like all of you guys were captains. Wow, yeah. and you were captain personalities and individuals, but also you were playing like big roles at your teams. Yeah. And Tim, it's going back to something you talked about at the beginning of the pod about like being able to walk in that locker room and know that like you just have a different confidence and also an authority to it. And when you're looking around in tough games on the field, like I would look to you guys to be like, oh man, these guys are fine. Like we're good. Yeah. We're gonna get through this. And I think that this team has really lacked big individuals that are willing to take that responsibility. And I've been happy with the way that Pulisic has developed. He's not a natural leader vocally, all the gesticulations, but he would lead by example by performing, but he still kind of wants to do that. I call him a bit of a reluctant leader, but outside of Tim Ream, there wasn't really like, somebody that was just the calming influence on the team outside of Tyler Adams. And so Jedi Robinson's in a much better place. Pepe's playing a lot. And so now that would be my challenge to this group is I think talent-wise, we're in a better place. It's just like, can we now, the core of leadership develop genuinely within that team? Then I think we'll be in a good spot for 26. And I think that's the challenge for Mauricio Pochettino is to empower some of these guys, but also push them at their club level. Like, hey guys, don't just be okay with being a like leader on the national team. Go be a leader in your club in these European locker rooms where you walk in and these guys are like, who's this American kid? Yeah. And you earn that by playing. You have to earn that right to do that by being an impactful player on the field. And then your voice develops, you develop, your experience develops, and I think the national team will be better because of that. So I think we're in a better place than we were in 22 because these guys were all 21, 22, 23 years old. But yet for the U.S. to be successful in 26, it's leadership, and then it's the guys 12 through 18 pushing the guys in front, and that we have like real competition for that starting 11. Then that's when I think we could be talking about quarterfinals or semifinal because we have the talent to do it. If that's realistic or not, we'll probably know that in a year or so, I think.
Well said.
Stewie, it's been an honor, man. We could not have thought of a better first guest ever.
Kicked off the guests. So. It's all downhill. It's all downhill from here, boys.
Downhill. No, thank you, man. We would love to have you back if you have time. Best of luck to you in everything you do. Thanks for everything you do to help grow the sport too. Yeah. Happy holidays.
Thanks,
my
Ricky.
Friend.
Thanks, bro.
Thanks, Ricky.
Ricky.
Landon.
Let me show you that ring one more time. All right.
Timmy, always a pleasure, bro.
Good to see you, brother.
All right, let's take a break. When we get back, we'll talk more about the Premier League here on Unfiltered Soccer with Landon and Tim, presented by Volkswagen.
The Unfiltered Soccer podcast is brought to you by Volkswagen, the presenting partner of US Soccer.
Since 2019, Volkswagen has been on a mission to drive the future of the sport we all love, and VW is committed to making it more diverse, inclusive, and accessible for everyone.
They're not just talking about it, they're out there doing it. VW's partnerships, programs, and soccer clinics are unlocking opportunities for the next generation of players and fans.
As a longtime friend of Volkswagen, I've seen firsthand how VW are connecting with fans and driving the sport forward. From working with them on clinics to being part of their incredible campaigns, it's clear US Soccer is truly powered by the people.
Thank you to VW for being our presenting partner. Learn more about how VW are supporting US Soccer at vw.com. LD, let's jump into the Premier League. A little bit chaotic. So Liverpool and Everton at Goodison Park was postponed due to crazy weather, particularly in that area. So with them not playing, you then get Man City drawing to Crystal Palace 2-2. Arsenal draw 1-1 with Fulham. They didn't take advantage of that, and we will talk about someone who did take advantage of it in Chelsea. But Forest then beats Man United 3-2, which is just like when you start to think about like the new process under Ruben Amorim, it's going to take time, and you're like, that's okay, but we need to get some results, and then that doesn't help. Like that really, really hurts when it comes to like.
Yeah, they're trending upward, right? And then it's funny, if you knew nothing about the Premier League this year, you'd say they lost to Forest.
Yeah,
but Forest are actually a good team.
Sure,
like,
they're
a good team, and
they're good.
They're kind of lingering up near the top, like much higher than they should be. But this was a bad result for United. It's a bad result for United.
It's a really bad result. And but again, it's like I know Forest is doing well this season, but like as a new manager coming in, you still need to get those results, right? Because part of it, as we've talked about, is so many, stripping away the old ideas from Ten Hag and putting in your new ideas as Amorim. And as you do that, you need to get some results, and that didn't happen. But also the performance, although it wasn't totally flat, it was a little bit. It left something to be desired. Hey, look, you can see the patterns. You can definitely see the ideas. I don't think the players are there. So like, you're almost looking at this now as like, let's maybe this season's kind of a wash. Europe's probably gone in terms of like top four. We're not going to win. We're not going to win the league. So maybe we just take it on the chin and we just keep working at getting better in terms of philosophy, knowing that there's going to be players.
But that's so hard, Tim, because that is the right approach. In every sport, the Lakers for a while were just down, not doing the Celtics down. The right approach is you just start over, you start clean, and you build and you build and you build. But it's so hard because every weekend feels like a must win when you're in the Premier, as you know, when you're in the Premier League. So, and you're the biggest, and you're the biggest team, the biggest name. Yeah, that's right.
That's how it works.
He's going to have Ruben Amorim's going to have. He's got a PR management, on his hands, right? Like that to him is 1, 2, and 3 internally and externally. How do you handle it internally? With your players, look, I know we lost. We're getting better. We're doing the right things. Externally, we lost, but we're getting better. This is going to take time. This is a process, and it's going to be interesting to see. Meanwhile,
he's a state-like figure, as every United manager is. So you have to try and manage things on and off the field. Speaking of off the field, go ahead. I know you were going to jump right into that. I was going to say,
meanwhile, Dan Ashworth exits United as sporting director. I think it was happening while you were on air. Or during that time. So what was going on there?
So tons of background here. So obviously Dan Ashworth, he was so highly coveted at Newcastle as a technical director, and United wanted him and paid a couple $1 million for him, and they put him on gardening leave, which obviously then that meant he couldn't work for 5 or 6 months.
Wait, can you explain gardening leave? What the hell does that mean?
It's kind of
goes
almost
in the garden.
It's almost like a non-compete, really. Where?
But why do they call it gardening leave?
That's a good point.
Does he go gardening for a while?
He doesn't go gardening. Probably spends a lot of time in his garden.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay, probably. identified their guy. They went out and got him. They jumped through all these hoops because he's that highly sought after. And Sir Jim Radcliffe and then Omar Barada that they brought in at the level. And then he gets there. And I'm trying to think when he arrived, he ends up, they agreed a compensation deal in July, and then he hits the ground running. And as you know, after the Man United FA Cup Final, Man United win, they do a season review, right? And then they not extend Ten Hag. They keep him on as manager, right? That's obviously a collective decision. It has to be, right? Everyone has input. And then when you do that, you have to back the manager. We've always talked about that. We understand that that's how it works. And so Dan Ashworth was in charge of going out and signing Xerxes, Yarrow, Mazraoui, which are players, Delict, which are players that Ten Hag wanted. That's naturally. That's how you should do it, by the way. So, and Dan Ashworth said, these are my signings because we've backed the manager. We brought him back. We want to get him his signings. Then obviously it doesn't go well. And here's the problem, because this information, by the way, in a perfect world, got leaked. Here's why. Because United would want this to maybe come out at worst on Sunday during the Tottenham-Chelsea game, right? You can kind of bury it somewhere in there Sunday afternoon. At best, it comes out Monday morning. None of that happened, right? So this information was leaked, and they talked about him leaving by mutual consent. I can assure you, Dan Ashworth didn't leave Manchester United 5 months after he got there by mutual consent. Here's a key factor. Let me read this to you. United were beat by Liverpool in September 3-0. Ashworth tells a reporter that he played no role whatsoever in retaining Ten Hag in a joint interview with essentially his boss, Omar Barada.
Oh boy.
Who says Ten Hag has our full backing. So now this becomes probably untenable. Essentially, this is like Dan Ashworth probably in that moment undermined Omar Barada, and then it was just a matter of time.
Right.
Which is, I'm just not sure you do that. In fact, I'm certain you don't undermine the person who's directly above you. And if you do, you have to be ready for these consequences.
Tim, there's an old saying: you get hired for your talent, you get fired for your inability to get along with people, right? So like no matter how good you are, how talented, if you can't get along with the person that matters in the club, it's only a matter of time, like you said. And so this is tough to see. Not good for United, who were hopefully stabilizing, and now it just throws upheaval in all of it. So the team, I'm watching from afar. You're more in it, but the team that nobody talks about, who all of a sudden is 4 points back, 5 points back, 4 points back, is Chelsea. Right. And they're just kind of under the radar, doing their thing. They went away to Spurs. It was more comfortable than a 4-3 victory. Well, they're down 2-1 at halftime, and both you and Gary Neville halftime went out on a limb and said, I think Chelsea are going to win.
Totally.
Chelsea won, and they deserved it. And so, I mean, while Liverpool sat back and were happy with the Arsenal City results, I think the team now they have to be worried about is Chelsea.
Yeah, look, it's incredible because the reason no one talked about Chelsea is because Chelsea hadn't gotten it right. This is now becoming very, very right. What do I mean by that? Todd Boehly comes in. They sign a ton of young players, right? Too many young players. And the entire squad has ballooned. They sign them all to these very lengthy contracts. No one can figure out what's going on. It's manager after manager after manager, right? And then Maresca comes in. And Maresca right now has the magic wand. He's doing so many things right with this team. He's got them aggressive. He trimmed his squad. I mean, Raheem Sterling went out, right? He trimmed his squad. He said, I don't want these players. I know they signed. I don't want them. They're out. Then he took two teams and he said, I'm going to have a weekend team in the Premier League, and then I'm going to have a midweek team. That's it. And he's been very direct. Madueke, who has been brilliant, he didn't start him because he said, I know you scored, you're playing well, but you're not working hard enough. Brilliant from a manager, right? Plays Jadon Sancho. Sancho ends up scoring. So now he's got this magic wand. Things are going. And the reason no one thought that was because why would we? Well, managers couldn't get it right. Why is Maresca, who hasn't had any Premier League experience, going to get it right? These are all kids, except for the fact it's now working. They've got the best player in the Premier League in Cole Palmer alongside with Mo Salah, of course, at Liverpool. And things are working really well. And so I think he's downplayed it. in terms of they're not in the title race. They're absolutely right in the thick of the title race. And I think the great thing is that's his job, is just to downplay it, continuing to drive his team forward because which I'm sure you'll say, but as players, they'll be on the chat group. I said yesterday, they'll be on the chat group going, we're in this thing, and so no matter what the manager says, inside that dressing room, they know they're in it.
Yeah. So I think the reason why, you know this way better than I do, but being in England, there's so much garbage going on in the media all the time. And they've had United's disastrous things going on, City falling apart, Arsenal's always grabbing headlines, Ange and Tottenham and everything. And they've been under the radar. Nobody's paying. So now the question is, now that people starting to pay attention, now all of a sudden they're second at the table. Now, how do they handle it? Because people will start talking. And if they creep closer, people start talking to them. And they've been able to go under the radar, and it's been pretty impressive.
And one of the things about, just to dovetail off that, one of the great things about youth is the naivety. Yeah, totally. These players don't know any better. Totally. They're expressing themselves. They're in a title chase in the Premier League. They're like, this is what dreams are made of. Like, and it's great when you're not experienced and you don't have to worry about like your past ghosts and demons. These kids are like, let's go. It's in front of us. Let's fight. And so I think that's pretty awesome.
So last thing I want to talk about Premier League. This was interesting off the field. So fans always complaining about ticket prices, and you and I have talked about that. You have an interesting opinion on this. So I think as Chelsea fans are complaining that their season tickets are like $1,000.
Everyone's complaining. Yeah, everyone's complaining.
Everyone's complaining. $1,000, $1,200. Can you compare that to U.S. sports for people to understand across the pond?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of my shared experience was like, for my sins, I'm a New York Giants fan and a New York Knicks fan, and I always want to go to those games, but they're like too expensive. Like any decent seat. Now I'm not talking about the ones all the way at the top, but any decent seat is super expensive. When you talk about, forget season ticket, I couldn't afford a season ticket, take a loan out for that, but like per game ticket, I was like, this seems really, really high. So I get to England and I'm in the Premier League and I'm young and I hear that fans complain about ticket rises and season ticket prices all the time, like every year. Anytime there's a rise, they complain, which I guess is their prerogative. But then I remember digging a little bit deeper, and I was like, well, how much is and I know there's different amounts of games and amounts of home games based on NFL and Premier League and NBA. But I remember thinking like somebody would tell me how much a season ticket was. And it was at the time, I think it was like £500 or something. And I was like for the game or for the entire season?
That's one game for a Knicks game.
Right. So I'm like, well, I'm from New York. And like, if I wanted to see a Knicks game and like not have to bring my binoculars, I pay $500 for like one seat. Mm-hmm. And so like it never registered with me. Not to look, people work hard and they spend their hard-earned money, right? But the product this is the interesting thing. The product continues to go up. Television rights continue to go up, right? Value for players and contracts continue to go up. It's natural in that ecosystem that ticket prices go up, like everything does. And so I've never really I understand the plight of the fan. Of course, you want to make things accessible and affordable, but at the same time, as fans, and I'm a fan, right? We like to complain about any and everything. And that's just another thing that fans will complain about with their club. And oftentimes, to be honest, I think the clubs are a business and are having to run the business effectively. And oftentimes you have to raise season ticket prices when it's merited.
But I think the challenge people have is if you dig deeper, you say, okay, this is everyone's complaint, right? These are all billionaires.
Yeah.
So why are they charging me an extra $15 a seat?
Right.
But the owners have to ask themselves seriously, and I think the NFL started to pick up on this. All of their money, 90 whatever % of their money comes from TV, right? It doesn't come from, especially in the NFL where there's 8 home games, 9 home games. It doesn't come from your 9 home games, right? So whether you're charging someone $300 or $200 or $100, it doesn't make a massive difference in your bottom line. It might be a few $1 million, maybe $10 million, which in the grand scheme of thing for a club, not that much money, right? When they're getting billions of dollars, and individually as clubs, hundreds of millions of dollars through the TV deals. And it's the same with the Premier League. Like I know they have more games. They have 19 home games plus cup games, FA Cup, all that. But is it really worth it? I don't know. But to your point, all you Premier League fans, come spend a year in the U.S. and go to sport. Tim, in the playoffs, the Padres, right?
Yeah.
Average tickets for Padre games in whatever second, didn't matter what section, $400, $500, $600,000. I saw people with their families go. By the end of it, they're spending $5,000 to go to a game. And I'm thinking to myself, where are these people getting this money? I mean, like, you talk about taking out a loan, but I'm like, how do this many people affording to do this?
Those prices,
Insane.
It's insane.
Insane. All right, we are going to take another break. When we get back, we will dive into mailbag questions with JR.
Love a mailbag.
Anything but soccer. Lots to come still on Unfiltered Soccer with Landon and Tim, presented by Volkswagen.
LD, it's mailbag time. Everyone's favorite time of the week because our listeners get to have their say. You know who else favorite time of the week it is?
JR.
Jordan, get in here. Get some FaceTime. We know you love it.
Do you see my hat?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, you got swag.
Of course, I love it.
I
Is that a Gotham hat?
Yeah, it is.
It's a good team. We're gonna get you a Houston Dash hat. Don't you worry about that.
I have plenty of room to hang them on,
All right.
so send them on. All right. So first thing I want to do is just talk a little bit. Last week, you guys talked about Landon's cap that's there behind him. So I did a little digging, and I think you guys talked about this a little bit, that it used to be that teams didn't wear matching jerseys. They wore matching hats. And so that's where the concept for the cap came from.
In the game?
They started, in the game.
What?
So this was back in like the mid to late 1800s when the game was first invented. So in 1886, a gentleman by the name of N.L. Jackson wrote a rule
Shout
that
out to N.L.
said
Jackson.
all players taking part for England in future international matches will be presented with a white silk cap with red rose embroidered on the front.
Oh, that's
These to be termed international caps. So that's where it comes from.
Love it. Well done, Jordan. That's brilliant.
That's why we were
NL Jackson. Good for you.
What
Old Corinthians Football Club, 1886.
All right, let's dive into our mailbag with our first question from Michael via email. What do Tim and Landon think the role of the USL should be in the overall U.S. soccer and U.S. men's national team landscape?
I'll go first. I think it's critical. I really do. And for all reasons. There are 30 markets now in MLS. But there are lots of big markets in our country. Now, San Diego was the last sort of huge market, Vegas, Phoenix, without MLS teams. But there are lots of great soccer markets in our country that need to be represented. And so I think it's crucial from that standpoint. From a player standpoint, MLS has tried really hard with MLS Next Pro and development product. But the reality still for MLS Next Pro is that those environments don't compare to USL environments. And I lived it for 4 years coaching with Loyal. So having real professional environments, a guy I saw on Saturday, Miguel Berry, who didn't get into the game, but is with the LA Galaxy. He was playing early days with Loyal. He came on loan to us, and playing in that environment, even only for 10 weeks or 10 games, gave him the opportunity then to go back into MLS and make a real career for himself in Columbus. So having that is crucial from a player standpoint. And then also off the field, as I said, just having markets represented is crucial.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think, Landon, it has to be one fix, right? USL can feed a lot of different areas. And I think when, in Memphis with 901 FC, it was about creating an opportunity for guys to earn a living, right? Like these were guys who were never going to get to the MLS, and they earned a decent living. I also think there's an opportunity, as Landon said, in this country, we haven't quite figured out the best path for players at a lower level. And the problem with USL is they don't want to be seen as a second division. They're a thriving first division. And so when you look abroad, as Landon mentioned, if I'm at Manchester United and I'm not quite ready, I can go on loan to a championship club and ply my trade. In fact, they actually do that quite often to young players just to kind of get them stronger and more equipped to play in like a tough environment. And so it could serve as that. But I think the USL, again, it's going to depend on partnerships. It's going to depend on whether they want to continue to stay as an independent league. But ultimately, you have a lot of voices, and for so many owners, it's about creating a product on the field that is profitable and trying to bring the best players in. What I would say is the top 10 best players in the USL are better prepared to compete and contribute in the MLS than any kid coming out of college. And so
for sure,
there's some incredibly talented players. Unfortunately, on the MLS side, and I've seen this throughout time, they almost look down their noses at USL players, and it's almost like we shouldn't go dip into that. And I would push to any MLS club. Go out and look at the top 10 best USL players. They absolutely can compete in your team.
Agreed.
Okay. Second question is from Jamie via email. What are your opinions on MLS changing their seasonal schedule to something that matches the European calendar?
I think it would be, look, it's like a lot of things like promotion, relegation, etc. Theoretically amazing because it would help everybody just be more aligned. Players, from a player standpoint, it helps players be way more aligned with the scheduling, with international breaks, etc. The challenge for sure is for MLS is the weather. But my argument to that is there's bad weather everywhere in the world. I mean, there is. And so if they're worried about weather impacting attendance, in MLS, unlike the Premier League or the NFL, that's actually a real thing because there is a significant portion of revenue that comes through your in-game experience. But I would guess now, my guess is now MLS is mature enough, the fans care enough, or if it's 17 degrees in Toronto, they're still coming to the game. That would be my guess. I mean, they do it in the NFL. You watch Buffalo games. Everyone's there. Every seat's sold out. So I think the league is mature enough for it. I would love to see it.
Same. No, I don't have anything to add because I think with the restrictions of weather, they probably pale in comparison to all the benefits of actually being on the full international calendar that every other player gets around the world. So I think that's important. So, and you could probably find a way to be really clever and tweak some of the games and where the games are played and that type of thing.
Okay. Last question is also via email, which people want to write in, is feedback@unfilteredsoccer.com. This one's from Andrew. How do you feel about how the pro leagues regulate finances? Do you think the profit and sustainability rules need revision in the Premier League so that Manchester City, Liverpool, and Arsenal aren't the only teams able to fight for a title? Should MLS keep their salary cap as it is now or make it so that teams have more opportunity to draw in top talent while they're in their prime?
Well, I think what profit and sustainability has shown in the Premier League is that they are trying to balance things out a little bit. Everton was hit with sanctions. Nottingham Forest was hit with sanctions. Man City could be as well. And so it makes you have to be a little bit more responsible and frugal with your books. And so I think that is a good thing. We are seeing that. Regarding MLS, people have to remember MLS is for so long. Back when I started, I started 1998, 2 years after the league was born, really. And there were so many failed soccer leagues in America throughout the course of our history that they had to keep things tight. They had to keep the wallets tight. The spending couldn't balloon. We had to grow this league. And a credit to all the owners and commissioners who have tried to grow this league and make it sustainable. Like we couldn't go from 0 to 100. There had to be these growing metrics, and we've seen that go up. Look, as far as I'm concerned, I do think spending is good in the right areas, but you can't go top heavy and just spend when some of the other vehicles for profit into the club aren't quite there yet. So I think that the model right now, and I'm obviously incredibly interested to hear Landon's take on it. And we spoke with Stu a little bit ago about is it important to bring the biggest player in the world in, or is it important to spread that money throughout your squad and be successful?
I'll speak to the MLS perspective. The league is, like I just said with the calendar change, the league is mature enough to handle it, right? So every owner in the league is a billionaire, right? So these are not stupid people. These women and men know what they're doing with their money.
Yeah.
So they can make the decision, right? If you want to pay Messi, whatever the hell, who knows what Inter Miami paid him, great. That's your decision, your choice, and that's great. And that's good for the league. What I would like to see, because what's happened with all these different types of rules, GAM and TAM and, under 22 initiative, and all, what happens when rules are made is people find ways to break it or manipulate it, or unintended consequences happen. And the unintended consequence from all of these mechanisms to bring players to MLS is less American players getting chances, right? So you're incentivized to go out and spend $800,000, $1.5 million on a young South American, but you're not incentivized to keep Brandon Vasquez in the league, right? If you're Cincinnati. And so he ends up going to Monterrey. Hopefully it looks like maybe he'll be coming back, maybe to San Jose. But you want the incentive to be to keep all those players and bring in other players from around the globe. So I would like to see almost all of those restrictions lifted, have some version of a cap, like a hard cap where, what if it's 15 million, 20 million, 30 million? Maybe you can still spend on one or two players outside of that if you have a Messi or whatever. But let's just open the purse strings a little, not go crazy, but give teams more and more autonomy to make those decisions.
Love it.
That's it. Thanks, guys.
JR, thank you. All right, Timmy, your neck of the woods.
Yep.
The New York Mets decided to spend, get ready, $756 million on a 15-year contract for Juan Soto. No deferred money, unlike the Dodgers with Ohtani. Thoughts?
How much up front?
$75 million signing bonus, so he might be able to buy himself a car or something. Yeah, just crazy.
Look, I want feedback. We always talk about hit us up at Unfiltered Soccer. Give us your feedback, because I need like some staunch baseball fans to like weigh in here. 15 million, $750 million.
15 years.
15 years,
three quarters
of $1 billion. It's the 15. I'm almost better with the money than I am with the years. I don't understand. I know Alex Rodriguez back when signed like a 13-year deal or something. I don't understand the length of these contracts, because Juan Soto, if I'm correct, he's probably not giving you 15 years of good service, right? Like, I mean, I hope that's not like blasphemous. Like, who's giving you? Who can you commit to giving you 15 years of production, right? I know there's an opt-out after 5 years. It's the numbers make you dizzy, right? And all I can think about is Bobby Bonilla, for God's sake, right?
They're still paying him.
Till 2035, he's getting $1 million per year.
What a guy.
So here's the thing. Three takeaways. It's good to be Bobby Bonilla. It's good to be Juan Soto. And it's really good to be Scott Boras, who is his mega agent. And it's, I guess, great to be in the New York market, because it's going to be some big hitters. I think the Mets and the Yankees showed this year that they're back. Not as back as your Dodgers are, but it's fun. I think it's fun. I would have liked to see him stay at the Yankees, but a lot of fun.
Here's what's interesting to me. Okay, so when you get into levels of wealth, right? Yeah. I always think about, like, does it really matter if it's 736 million or 756? And you have to assume that every team in the running got somewhere close to 756. Right? Maybe it was 650, maybe it was 700, maybe. Now, the years, I don't know if the years even mattered. I don't know if it's 13 years and 756, does he care? I'd like, again, if there's someone who's really inside on baseball and knows these things, please let us know. But if I'm a club, why are you committing 15 years? But then the reality is Juan Soto had all the power. The leverage, and all 100%. These things are always about leverage, right?
Yeah.
When I was doing my last deal with the Galaxy, I knew I was only playing a few more years. They knew I was only playing a few more years. And so we're wrestling back and forth. Is it 2.5 million? Is it 3 million? Is it 3.5 million? But they know I'm only playing a few years. So I had some leverage. But they also knew I wasn't going anywhere. right? I'm not going to leave and go play in Spain for the last year of my life. So they know I love it there. They know I want. So there's like a respect factor of not taking advantage of that. But they have all, they have some leverage. I have some leverage. But he had all the leverage. My question for him, and look, I don't begrudge anyone getting their money. So great. Get your money. But dude, you had a good thing going at the Yankees. Like, you guys could be good forever. And I don't know if the Mets are going to be good. But I don't know if he cares.
But to your point, right? So the Mets were 15 years, $756 million. I think the Yankees offered 16 years at roughly the same, give or take, roughly the same, right? So there was an extra year. And I think it speaks to the psyche of us former athletes, but athletes. Like, I personally, on the outside, I'm like, stay with the Yankees. Like, the numbers are virtually the same. You're not giving the Mets 15 years. You're not giving the Yankees 16 years. So, like, stay with the Yankees, right? Build there because you have a great thing. But also, as we know, everyone likes being the highest paid. Everyone likes being the marquee, right? Because, by the way, he's not the marquee name on the stadium at the Yankees.
Yeah, that's
But if he goes across town, he's now the marquee name in the same market. So it speaks to the psyche of these players, and I don't begrudge them at all. Well done to the Mets.
All right. Well, please give us comments on that because we're confused, just like most of you. All right. Thanks for all you guys for being with us today. Special shout out to Stu Holden for talking MLS with us. Remember to subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your pods. Follow us across all social media platforms at Unfiltered Soccer for extra content. Appreciate you guys.
Yeah, thanks for everybody for listening. Thanks, Stu Holden. I mean, what an absolute gent and legend. Thank you to our presenting sponsor, VW. Have a great week. We'll be back next Tuesday with another edition of Unfiltered Soccer.